Hello, everyone. I'm James Daniel, and this is the Love Foundry. And we are working on the subject of empowering yourself with love. Probably the most important step that humanity has taken since animal man became human and self-conscious awareness became our daily driver. Now we are about to embark on the next leg of that journey, which is self-conscious awareness empowered by love, which up to now we have pretty much been avoiding with great skill and abilities. Today, the podcast is going to be reasonably short because I don't have my cohorts in crime to help me out with it today, and I need them. I'm going to add some others, and we're just, because this is all forming, it's at the beginning of its long life of assisting humanity, and our tools and our structure and our thoughts about it all are just coming into focus. So bear with us and thank you. Today I'm talking about the tools of the self, which we need in order to get this movement actually started within ourselves and within the group into which we belong. And two of those tools I want to focus on today are courage. That's a human characteristic developed over time, and faith. So I don't know how that will go. And when we do talk about faith, we almost always talk about hope, because faith, hope, and charity, these things kind of come together. But they have real meanings, and the meanings of them translated into activity in your personality nature are powerful. And they give you the way in which you can open the door and let that impact of love come into the mental, emotional, and physical nature and out, starting that long process into full empowerment. Now, courage. Courage is something that we all have. Every human being has great courage. They don't know it until they're tested sometimes, but they have it. And I have seen it over and over. I've been through war. I've been through other experiences out in nature, and I've been through mental and emotional situations where courage is required to just stand up and speak your piece. So I've had some experience with courage, and I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to fail at it. I know what it feels like to have fear overtake you. But in this case, I would like to make the point that courage in the face of great danger is one thing. But in this case, I'm talking about courage in the face of desire. Overcoming desires, whatever they are, and mostly they're the addictions of life that we all fall into because of enjoying pleasure. When we enjoy too much pleasure in any particular subject, we usually end up attached to it because of repetition and habit. It just feels good, so we do it again. Now, it doesn't matter what you become overly attached to, it can eventually interfere with your progress toward empowering yourself with love. Not because love makes any judgment about anything, it doesn't. It has no capacity for judgment. But our capacity to block love, which is rooted in our free will, does have power. And if we choose that activity over and over again, it will eventually cause us to start to resist the message that love is giving us of how to connect our inner nature, empowered by love, to outer circumstances. Now, what's an example of what I'm talking about? Well, drug addiction. It takes courage to resist the attachment to something that gives you a sensation, especially a sensation that takes you away from pain. Because pleasure and pain are two sides of an opposite that is unified, surprisingly, in ecstasy. But it is the union of opposites in love that takes us out of these attachments. Every opposite has its other side, and the two sides are split out of love. So when you put all opposites together, you find yourself standing at the threshold of love. And this is true of every opposite. Pleasure and pain being one of the basics. And you can see it working around you in nature. And there's anybody that doesn't know, when you look at our prehistoric political system with everybody arguing and bitching and moaning on both sides of the opposites about the other opposite that isn't suiting their standards, you realize if you don't unify those into a union, you're never going to find an agreement in love of how to manage our joint difficulties of life. And I say joint, meaning those things that are different from you, seemingly opposite of you, can't escape the life you're in, nor can you escape the life they're in. So, and if we don't unify that life into something that works on the one common denominator, the one common denominator that brings all things together in life is love. And empowering yourself with it ends all of that opposite nature and brings about a unity, liberating love into the space. Okay, this is a scientific premise, if you want, but it is true. And courage against the overstimulation of any one of the opposites to bring balance about so that they can be merged is a very real kind of courage. So when we're looking at something that we want to bring down into less impact in our life, freeing us to do this merging and management process in us, think of courage. I don't care. Maybe you're addicted to ice cream. Maybe you're addicted to pornography. Maybe you're addicted to the sensation of feather tickling. Whatever it is, realize that courage is the requirement in the character to push it back a little and say, hold on a minute, not to make a judgment about it or a judgment about yourself or connect yourself to someone else's judgment, be it religious or any other, medical, religious, or any of the other judgments that people pronounce upon us from their lofty perch. None of these have meaning to us when we get down into the situation where we're regarding something specifically and directly between you and love and it. It's a simple triangle, and it falls together in your character. And you say, okay, love, I want to bring you into strength, and that means I'm going to have to push back against these things that push you out of my center of empowerment, because we give power to these things. We give power to addictions. We give power to attachments. We give power to things that we know are more than we need. More than we need. And by doing that, we push love out. We make it second to the choice. And love doesn't play second fiddle very well. It simply stands back in the silence and waits until our willingness to draw on our courage and push back against something strengthens. So remember, when you're pushing back against something that seems to be overtaking you, draw on love, because it joins you. Love joins you the moment you join it. So if I want courage to push back against an over-attachment that I have developed in my life to something without any emotional judgment about me or it or others, simply, that's too much. It's too much to spend that much time going down the scroll hole on my phone and watching one more Instagram of a cat reciting the alphabet or something. That it doesn't matter. We attach emotional values to the things, but emotional value is of little importance to love. It's the denying of that time spent, that balance spent with love. Because love is an all-purpose, all-weather energy. It comes direct out of life, and it's busy. It's busy and active and dynamic, and it's perfecting and healing and making whole everything in the universe, and it hasn't got time to quibble about things. So if you want to push back on something and you feel yourself not having the strength to do it or being weak in doing it, then draw on love, because that's what's going to grow as you balance yourself. As you push back on any of those addictive things, you're bringing yourself closer to the balance where unity occurs. And that is something love supports. So empowering yourself with love strengthens the courage to push back against the things that push love out of our conscious awareness. So that's an aspect of it. Think about the courage aspect and think how it links you in a triangle with love. There's you, there's the thing, and there's love, and there's bringing this energy in that balances the two things together. Whatever this is and its opposite need to come into balance, be under your management, and then move on. It doesn't mean you need to eliminate anything. It needs to bring everything into balance. Alcohol consumption has never been against the law, or Jesus wouldn't turn the water into wine. And that's an act of love. It's not an act of personal choice because the family ran out of wine in the wedding. He didn't want the groom to be embarrassed. It's an act of balance in nature. And that balance needed that. So the miracle of what that meant happens. But it happens through the agency of love joining his creative agency in him. So, but this isn't a podcast about miracles and how they're accomplished, although pushing back against those things that are attached themselves to us as addictions could very well seem like a miracle. And if you need it, it will be, because love will join you. And then it's a joyful process. Wouldn't it be great if I had more courage to say no to that thing that's pushed into my life that much because I let it in? I started smoking a first cigarette, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a 10th, 1,000th, 100,000th. And now how am I going to say no to that? Well, love will help you. And then it'll give you a way that you had never seen coming. Never seen coming, because you thought of it all as an argument between you and cigarettes, or you and your desire, and you and sorrow, or you and sadness. Sadness is one of the things that causes it to smoke. And I have done many of those in my youth. I have been known to run from one foxhole to another in a mortar attack because I didn't have any cigarettes. Hilarious as that sounds, it's true. Hey, anybody over there got any cigarettes? That's how we feel about our addictions. But the giving up of them can be just as amazing. When my first daughter was born, I said, I have to stop. And that was way too late. I should have stopped a lot sooner, because I was 50 and I knew this can't go. You can't do this and have a daughter born. This is not right, because otherwise I'm not going to be around for her to grow up, and that's not right. And that connected me to my desire for that over my desire to smoke. And that's where love formed an energy pathway for me. And it just flowed in, and I went, oh, that's enough of that. And it wasn't hard at all. It was not hard at all. There was no struggle to fight for it. There was no enmity between me and cigarettes. I don't spasm up and go crazy when I smell someone smoking a cigarette. I don't really care. I liked smoking. I liked the smell of it. I liked everything about it, except that it was killing me over time. So then I went to work on recovering my lungs, which took a lot of work, by the way. And in my case, I became a Bikram yoga instructor, just mainly to recover my body, but it was more than my lungs. It was my back and my legs, and I wasn't young. My daughter's 30 plus, and I'm grateful to love. I'm grateful to her. I'm grateful to me for my courage to say no. But the courage came from a desire for something better, something more important to me. God knows I had smoked enough cigarettes. So I'm just showing you the path of courage can be something other than what you might think. And all of us who struggle with that turn into love, because it's the creative power of the universe, and it wants to enter you and be part of your empowerment with life. And if you do that, it will join you, and it will come up with solutions for things that you had not the least idea. I remember when I had a recording studio once, and a man walked in and said, "I'd like to do some voicing, overdubbing in your studio." And I said, "Sure." And I said, what would you like to do? And then he started talking to me like, and he was the voice of Donald Duck for Disney. He was in his 70s then. And it just reminded me of the oddness of life, the oddness of karma. You know, you're going to be, and he was very successful and wealthy man at that point in his life, because he had the courage to walk into Disney's office and talk like a duck and get hired. And, you know, it's like karma saying to you, the good news is you're going to be wealthy and have a wonderful life. The bad news is you're going to do it with the voice of a duck. But he has, plus a lot of other voices that he did. He had a great range of acting. So you don't know what's going to come to your aid in life. And so it takes courage to face the things that you are looking for, but have no idea how you're going to accomplish them. Success. And the other thing we're looking at, the other tool, there's a number of tools, but the other one, and they all have to do with love, of course, because love empowers tools in the self. But another one we're looking at is faith. The evidence of things hoped for, the substance of things not seen, which makes faith very physical and practical, because it's evidence and substance. These are the words that define it. Now, that definition may not be the definition in Webster. I don't know what Webster's definition of faith is. It's trust in something that you don't see, obviously, and trust in abilities to bring it to you. And it's, you could talk a lot about it, but it's reduced down to that simple phrase, which is the biblical perspective of faith, which I think Paul delivered. I'm not sure. I'm not expert in that. But the point of it is that it's a bridge. Courage is something that we draw on to push back against, but faith is something we use to bridge to something unseen, something seemingly unreachable at the moment, because we don't know the technology that will take us there. We don't have the answer to it. These guys that are working, I was watching a little video on the guys working on fusion power. And he said the difficulty with what we're doing is that we have to invent everything, because we're talking about temperatures that are in excess of those of the sun by many magnitudes. That's hot at the center of the sun. So we need to invent materials that have no precedent. That's hard to have And they don't even know what it's going to take to actually get there. They're hoping the path that they're following will lead to it. And they're doing various different techniques to get there. And maybe some of them will work, maybe all of them will work, and maybe they'll borrow each other's. But we're going to get there, and we know it, and they know it. The one thing science knows is that you can sniff it. When you're getting close, they're getting close. And that release of fusion power will make electricity in the world virtually free. Now, they may not sell it to us for free or give it to us for free, but they won't be able to control the technology, because once you know how it's done, once you know how to apply the science, then people will find ways to make it cheaper and faster and easier and smaller. And pretty soon, you're going to be using fusion power to pull trains back and forth across the country, to run ships. I don't think it'll get small enough to drive cars, but it won't need to, because by that time we'll have worked out some new and spectacular battery that doesn't burst into flames like lithium batteries do. Anyway, it takes a lot of faith in the idea that you can force atoms together, and by doing that create something that releases energy more than it takes to force them to do it, and has no negative and harmful side effect against the environment when you do it, which is the really important part of that. It's one thing to create energy like you do with fission power, which is splitting atoms, but you release a lot of dirty stuff into the environment when you do that, and that takes a lot of handling to manage it, to get it back on track so it doesn't destroy things around it. But they're going to do it. You know it. And this is the scientific application of faith. Whether you're Edison trying to do a filament for a light bulb for the 10,000th time, or whether you're trying to do Wright brothers flying an airplane, or whether you're trying to bring love in to empower your life in a way that you have never imagined. No idea how. But strangely enough, inside every human being are all the elements, every single one necessary to empower you with love. And empowering you with love releases its energy into you, to circulate through you, to become a cohabiting aspect of life itself in all of the qualities of life: intelligence, identity, power, presence, scientific manipulation. Love does it all. And if you empower yourself with it, it does it all with you, for you, to you, because it does have transformation and transmutation. You're going to be changed by it. And what are you going to be changed by it into? Well, something more capable with love, more harmonious with love, more able to pass love through, more able to work with and grow into the depth and width of love's place in the universe. So, and that means further away from the things that are not love, the illusions, glamours, mayas, imbalances, addictions, and negative harm and dis-ease that's caused by being out of balance with love. It is a necessary ingredient to a happy, prosperous, and evolving life. You think you're going to evolve life without love? Do you really think that's going to happen? Because evolving means towards perfection with love, which is perfection with life, which is perfection with God, if you'd care to put it in those terms. It all comes down to love. If you're going to increase your capacity to be, to know, to love, to do, you're going to empower yourself with love. So we suggest you do it now. At the Love Foundry, we have focused on one thing only. It's something that every human being can do. And if they focus on it in the right way, it's going to grow quickly into their lives. This is true. There's no doubt about that. The difficulty of it, because there's always a difficulty, is that it's going to bring into your life that which stands between you and it. And unfortunately, we have a long history of putting things between us and love. Not that we meant to, we just did. Every time you choose life without it, choose will and intelligence and leave love at the door, you have put another choice in the way. Facing that, acknowledging it, overcoming it, and connecting directly to love means bringing it up before our consciousness in ways that we can recognize it and let it go. So this has to happen to us. And that's why it brings before us the addictions, the attachments, and the attitudes. Sorry, that's how love rolls. Love loves everything. Other things you don't love, every single thing you don't love, love loves. So it squares off with you. It says, okay, you can have me, you can have love, but I love everything, everyone. So that means you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to love everything as well. That takes courage. That takes faith in love's power to bring you into harmony with all the things that you are out of harmony with. And look, take a look. There are a lot of people that in the Arab community that are out of harmony with the Jewish community. But I'm not in the Arab community. I'm Irish, Scotch, English, and German. I have an interesting relationship to that community and to the Arab community. So they're both okay with me. I'm not going to find any of those. What do you find so wrong with that other group of people? Well, they did this and they did that. Sure, they did this and they did that. And you did this and you did that. But I side with love on the matter. There's a way for each to recognize and love each other because love does. And that means that there is a path, or love would not have a path. Now, ask the Irish in me to get along with the British, ask the British to get along with the Scot, and ask all of those three to get along with the Germans, and then I've got a warfare going on inside of me. But I know that love loves them all, harmonizes them all, brings them all towards the unity, so I'm siding with that. And anything in between any of those that has to be faced and overcome, I have faith and courage to do it with. So when we think about a little power triumphant inside of ourselves to bring us through to the empowerment of love, it's almost as simple as just simply courage and faith and love. The three of you working it out. Well, the three of them with you working it out. Courage, faith, and love, and you in the same place. Well, bring love in. If you're going to empower yourself with it, bring it into the room with you to do it. Invite it in. At the Love Foundry, we're going to make love real for you, so that you can handle your relationship to it in a way that causes it to produce power in you. I can't do that. I can't do that for anyone. Power-wise, you and I must do that for ourselves. But we can help each other bring it into the moment with us, bring it into the room, and then look at what each other needs to do to help empower ourselves with it and support each other. Like I said, I don't have a problem between the Arab and Jewish brothers of the human race. They do. Then I do because they do, right? Because it's causing distortions in the human experience for all of us. So it's in my interest to help that harmonize. So I will. I'm going to. I'm determined to do that. And then we begin to see the gifts that can be released into the group experience by each of us if we can bring that harmony into harnessing it with love. It is, after all, the will of the whole machine. A machine is run by will. The will is connected to the purpose of the machine. Do we see how that works? If you have a purpose, you make a machine that stamps out widgets because we need those widgets to do something with. So that's our purpose, to create widgets, which by themselves are just a pile full of little odd things. But when we put it in its right place in a clock or in a machine or in some other thing, a medicine, suddenly we see why that widget is valuable. So we have a machine whose purpose it is to make that widget. Because that widget serves harmony. It serves love. It serves a greater good than itself. And we are widgets ourselves in the universe of being, fitting into our place in the human race and causing other things to happen as a result of love in us. That love is connected to purpose, and that purpose is connected to harmony. And down inside of us is the way in which that works itself out to the great mystery of love. So, I like to leave any podcast, because we're working this process out. Every podcast is a part of the workshop. If you come to our workshop and did it live as a several workshop to bring in the empowerment of love, then we might focus subject to subject and bring in this realization of the fluidity and ease with which the power of love is in your hands and can be applied to your difficulties of life, no matter what they are. I don't care what your problems are. I really don't care. It's not my concern, because I absolutely am interested in how love can resolve them. That I do care about. Because I know it can and it will. And the challenge of that is most interesting. And you can challenge love to create a way through, but there's no chance in the world that it'll fail. We might fail because we lose courage, or we lose faith, or we lose our vision, or understanding how to keep going, which is why we want to strengthen each other. But love never fails, never gives up, never surrenders, never turns away, never rejects itself. We can reject it. We have free will. God knows why, but we have it. And yeah, we know why. And with it, we're going to resolve all human problems. Every single human problem has a resolution in love. So we're going to just one at a time do them until they're gone. That's how simple that is. And there is an order to them. You got to kind of take things in order. But love knows that. So it brings that order first. And you might not know what the order is, but love always does. And that's why we have to have a little faith in the process, a little faith that the moment you're in is the one you're supposed to be in. It can't be any other way. And we can rile against the fate, but this is where exactly we're supposed to be, facing and dealing with exactly what we're supposed to deal with, in order for this love resolution to actually unfold itself. Connect to the idea of that. Connect to the power of that in you. Sense how it wants in, and it wants to come through. It wants to reveal. It can't force. Love will not force. It's not designed to force. It's designed to reveal and allow your free will to choose. And by choosing, assign energy to the outcome. And by assigning energy to the outcome yourself, love flows through and causes that outcome to transform or transmute or unify, or for grace to flow in. And at a certain point, to push through the lens of reflecting light and bring you into a complete unity with all life in the universe. The Bodhisattva, the Christ consciousness, and embrace one-on-one consciously with all that livingness, realizing it's your livingness, and never lose separation from it again, ever, life or death, conscious or unconscious. You have it. That's the depth. That's the power. That works. Take it in. It's already here. It's not anywhere else. It's in us, and it's here in this moment. Listen for it. Feel for it. Sense it. Because when we wrap ourselves around that with our senses, we can hold. And when we get a depth of that in us, we won't let go. We don't need to let go, ever. Ever. We hold it through life, and we hold it through death. This is what was demonstrated in the crucifixion, is one human being so completely clear on the subject of love that he could hold it. He could hold it in the face of all positive possibilities, healing, helping, informing, raising the dead, and he could hold it in the face of all negative judgments and all abuse, physical abuse, emotional, mental abuse, all of that abuse. He could hold it up to and through death, to where he can say, it is finished. It never abandons us. And apparently, right after death, he's still holding it. Things are still happening. Love is still being faithful. And stupendous results could occur. So let's not be lightweight about it. Let's don't be overwhelmed with it, because it's a journey. It's a journey we take one step at a time. And when a major portion of humanity figures that out, which they're starting to do right now, we're figuring it out with you right now, then we will start taking those steps together. And then it becomes a wide path, a wide and broad way forward for everyone. Everyone. There's no other path except this one into love, and from there we can see what other paths are possible. So it's here. It's just opening up. You're an early adopter. Take advantage of it, because our life is short. I've watched it fly by. And I want to make the steps I can in relationship to love in this life, so that I stand at least at that step prepared to go forward from there. I can't wait. I can't wait around for others to anchor those steps and for things to change and things to get better. And then I can say, oh, by that time, I will be gone. So I'm like, what the hell? You can't catch me back to teach me the lesson later. I have to start over somewhere down the head a ways and figure it out there. And hopefully by that time, there'll be good teachers on the subject of love. I hope. So let's have courage, let's have faith, let's have acceptance of the presence of love, and let's empower ourselves with it. And we are here, and we will help. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. If I can get this functional. And
wanna know